Hey guys, this is Jay Calder with Jay Unboxing here, giving you a personal prediction for Gervonta Davis versus Hector Garcia. And as always, this is just my take. Your prediction can be left down in the comments section below. Would love to hear them all. This is a pretty weird, interesting fight that only seems to get more interesting by the day with all the stuff going on around it. So would love to hear all that down in the comments section below. A little bit of fight info here. We have Gervonta Davis taking on Hector Garcia. I believe there is some sort of fringe lightweight title on the line, but that doesn't really matter. Really, this is just a fight to kind of prepare Davis for his upcoming fight in April with Ryan Garcia. This will be taking place at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C., airing absurdly on Showtime pay-per-view in the lightweight division. So, we have the first pick of the year, and it should be a decent one, actually. Both fighters are skilled, have fairly exciting styles, and can punch a little bit, especially in the case of the bigger Davis, as Hector Garcia will be moving up from 130 pounds. Adding to the already interesting storyline, you have a Davis showdown with Ryan Garcia looming for April, and Tank's recent drama outside of the ring, all perhaps factoring into performances. So, does Davis stay focused and locked in, or will Garcia add another massive upset to his resume? Let's break this one down, try to find out. Starting with Davis here. For Davis to win, I think you want to start with that left over the top. Now, this is especially important when Garcia throws the right hand and can sometimes overcommit. If you can make him miss, then come with that left hand over the top of that right hand itself. You're definitely going to be able to counter him well, which you like to do and can do pretty well in fights anyway. You can also step to the right side with it a little bit and land that kind of as an overhand shot with some speed down the middle. It's a shot that, again, you can throw pretty well because you're a shorter fighter, so the arc of that shot needs to be a little higher anyway, and it's a shot that, again, if Garcia squares up for, a shot that will land. He's pretty easy to tag at times when he commits. It's just about whether or not you have the power to make him pay, which I think Davis has. And of course, these left-hand shots can be set up with jabbing to the body with the left hand. You can continue to do that, sucker him into it, effectively use it as a setup shot, and then when you bring it over the top when he's least expecting it, it'll have all the more impact because it's the shot he doesn't see coming. Certainly will help lower that guard as well, so a left hand over the top is something I think you should start with if you're Davis. I would also say push Garcia back. Garcia has better success coming forward. Looks to get more action going, lets his hands go a bit more when he's doing so. So you need to look to stop that by jabbing or tying him up on the inside if needed, just not letting him get going. Naturally, when you're pushing him back, this allows you to step in and make your power count. Yes, you can still counter pretty well with some power, but if you're able to really step into it, it's all the better. This will, of course, also push him back and keep you off the ropes, which I think will be something you're going to need to do in this fight. We can get into it just here, but it's, again, going to be a very synergistic approach of pushing him back, taking away his best, and then making sure you're kind of taking away from anything that could hurt you by leaning up against the ropes, but instead stepping into those shots and making them count. And as I mentioned, stay off the ropes. Garcia, as mentioned, is much better coming forward, letting his hands go. Don't give him that. You're going to want to make sure that you're pushing him back instead. This also means you're not stepping into your power if you're up against the ropes. Again, as mentioned, don't let him do that. Your action is going to be best when you're coming forward. Doesn't mean you always have to step directly in. Of course, you could step to the side and kind of give him some angles. I think you should do that in particular in this fight because it'll make him miss and you can counter. But you just don't want to be on those ropes where you're giving him far too much room for growth in this fight when really you're trying to make sure you stomp that out as soon as possible by staying off the ropes, being more positive with your production, and letting that left hand go. Now for Garcia to win, you want to keep the left hand quick. You're not trying to win this fight with power. You're the smaller fighter. You have less power than him anyway, especially moving up. So there's really no reason to try and win this fight with a power shot. Instead, you're going to try to do it with some quickness and keeping the shot straight. Both of you have about the same reach, with Davis having a little more, but for the most part, you're at about 67 inches of reach. However, Davis is quicker. So if you want to have any success with that left hand, you're going to have to do it by trying to make it as straight a line as possible and work on timing. Try to figure out his range, his pattern of throwing punches early on, and then make him pay by timing that shot and making it quick. As the fight wears on, if you start pressing him back, then power comes into it. But in the meantime, just trying to get that left hand home should be your focus. And sort of as I alluded to there with Davis, you're going to want to force Davis back. That's just the best chance you're going to have in this fight. You fight better coming forward. That means you have to try and be physical. Now, naturally, that will be tougher as a smaller guy. He is the bigger man, as I mentioned. But that just means you have to push him back with shots first, get him to be a bit more defensive, then step in and start pressing. If you can keep the action, the sort of the punches, the flow of your punches busier, it will push him back naturally. That will allow for you to step in and make sure you're just not chasing. Cut off the ring and corner him. Do it responsibly, and you'll have your best chance of really putting him in line for some of the shots you're looking to land later in the contest. And finally, I would say don't rush in square. That simply makes you too big a target against a big puncher, and you have a tendency to do that in other fights. Now, granted, you were able to take those shots, but that was at 130 pounds. You're now facing someone in Davis who really might be a junior welterweight, just holding himself down to 135. So you're going to want to make sure that you're not making yourself a big target. Instead, step to the side and try landing the left hand instead of keeping yourself so wide open. Try making yourself a more of a narrow target. Once he's pressed back and against the ropes, you can then get a bit more leverage on your shots, maybe even square up a bit more if you have him a little more under control. But until then, keep a more composed base and never keep a squared base for much longer than you need to. And just try to get the torque on your shots naturally from the ground up, as you should anyway, to give yourself the best chance of avoiding some of those big bombs. Now, in terms of my pick here, I'm still going with Tank. And I say still because all this stuff going on outside the ring could potentially make someone change their pick. However, still sticking with the American. The first few rounds will be close enough, but once Tank gets focused and starts putting things together, I think the size and power will start to slow Garcia down. And those middle frames is where I think Tank hurts and drops Garcia, specifically with the left hand, of course, over the top, ultimately finishing him off up against the ropes as the referee steps in to halt the action. Gervonta Davis via mid-fight stoppage. Now, in terms of the betting odds here, you have Davis at a massive favor, coming in at a minus 1250. Garcia's coming in at a plus 700. In terms of value here, of course, it's all with Garcia. With Davis, he is a big favorite for a reason. However, you're kind of risking a lot more than even the odds suggest because, again, he does have potential distractions going into this fight. Whereas with Garcia, you're getting 7-1. Again, laying a small bet, if you're so inclined to call a long shot here, is not going to be the end of the world. Doesn't mean you should expect a return, but it is certainly where the value is because he is a live dog, no matter what anyone tells you. Now, in terms of the over-under, it's set at a 7.5, with the over coming in at a minus 140 and the under coming in at even. As I mentioned, I'm kind of picking a mid-fight stoppage here, so that's right around where I would have expected the odds to be set, to be perfectly honest. However, considering it has to go into the 8th round, I might even be so inclined to pick the under here because you're also getting better value here. It's a pretty good set line, so you do want to be conservative with your bet size, but that's personally where I would lay that sort of bet. But in any event, those are your odds. And my prediction record heading into the fight is 0-0-0, but of course that's because this is the new year and everything restarts. New year, same me, but new record at the very least. Let me know what you guys think, though, down in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts, predictions, bets, so on and so forth. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at jcalderon_JOB. You can email me at jagunboxing@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you there. Also, be sure to check out jagunboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, rankings, and more. And as always, until next time.